What's not to watch? They're the best at what they do, and I'm the best at what I do, and together it's like, it's on.
In case some of you wonder where the best is, they're up here on this plaque on the wall.
You sure you're ready for this?
I'll do my best.
Your best? Losers always whine about their best. Winners go home and the prom queen.
Here we go, boys and girls. It's the best soccer show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV. We are live on a Wednesday evening. I am Jason Davis. I am not with Jared Dubois in any sense of that's phrasing. Whoa. We've got a very special guest host, my old partner from the American Soccer Show, and before that, some other stuff we did. Zach Woosley, the Ginge. How are you, Zach? What's going on, buddy?
I'm very good, Jason. How are you?
I'm excellent. I love doing this live stuff. I know it's been a while for you doing a live show. I know you guys have done some stuff in the not too recent past, but come on.
Yeah, the last thing I did live was just me over cussing in the MLS Cup final. So
I did listen to that.
I had to get my professional hat back on. By the way, I'm very jealous of the jersey you had tonight, and I also like the fact you left the tag on the timber scarf you have hanging behind you as well.
Yeah, that was like turn away from the mic. Horrible mic technique. I don't know. Just got lazy. Didn't take it off. All right, so we are here to talk soccer as usual, live on a Wednesday. NASN.TV/live. I don't know why I'm saying that, because if you're listening to us now, you're probably already there. But the phone number should be there as well, 201-430-2378, which is nicely 201-430-BEST, and we are on Skype at Best Soccer Show. We will take your calls all evening long, well, all hour long that we're here. And I don't know, what's the lead story today, Zach? I mean, do I move right past the big massive signing that just happened and go into other stuff, or do I have to talk about David Beckham? Do I have to?
Golden Balls is back. Yay! I'm
2 years.
Excited.
This is the thing. 2 years, and I saw a total $15 million. So that's $7.5 million a year. I mean, I don't know if it's backloaded or whatever.
More than my Dynamo will spend in like a decade.
It's crazy, right? It's crazy. AEG is throwing around their cash, and I know that makes you bitter as a Dynamo fan because they're not really splashing it on the orange team down there in Texas. Is this? I mean, I know that, people are probably a little over Beckham, especially MLS fans have been paying attention for a long time. I've warmed up to the guy. I got to admit that I'm not. I'm okay with another 2 years if he plays like he did in 2011. How can you really argue with it from an LA Galaxy standpoint?
Considering they lost Juninho, it's even more important. I mean, bringing a guy back who clearly had a great 2011 season is very important for them. Now, the question is, will he be able to hold up physically for these next 2 years potentially?
That's
and you've also got this little trigger in the contract which lets him go and do things for the Olympics this summer.
Yeah.
And so that opens the door for people to say, well, here we go again with Beckham, the sideshow, not really wanting to be a part of things.
Yeah.
But it makes sense for the Galaxy in a lot of ways, I think.
Yeah, I do think obviously the injuries are a concern with a guy his age. He held up this year. You don't know if he's going to go off to London. I mean, I don't know. I think that's probably a good thing for MLS in one way, in a marketing way, but bad for the Galaxy if he's gone. I don't know. Landon Donovan could go play as an overage player in London too. I mean, what happens then to the Galaxy if that's the case? I mean,
well, if anything's proven out in Major League Soccer is that you can survive a bad summer and still make the playoffs, because that's really all that matters.
That's true.
Beckham's importance is still there to a point. I mean, people still buy tickets to see him. I mean, for example, here in Dallas at FC Dallas Stadium, their attendance averages are not very good, and I'm not trying to bag on FC Dallas. It's just a fact. But when Beckham shows up, they pack the house.
Yeah.
So, you're right. The traditional paying attention soccer fan is like, okay, Beckham's back. It's cool. It's novel to see him. But he still brings in the casual fan. Right. He still fills the stadium. And I'm sure Montreal will be happy because that's a nice thing for them to have, assuming they even get LA in visiting there. I haven't looked at the schedule with the new unbalanced stuff.
I'm pretty sure LA goes to Montreal once. So I think in fact
he'll be hurt or suspended for a yellow card.
Well, here's the other element of that. And I saw Steve Goff of the Washington Post tweeting this out as well. He said, LA re-signs Beckham, fine, that's great for them, big deal. And then immediately, all of the other MLS accounts are tweeting out, "Do you have your tickets yet?" Here's I saw Chris Schlosser posted a roundup of his best moments over the past 5 years within like a half an hour of the announcement that he had re-signed. That's pretty. I mean, are we like this is what Goff said? Aren't we past this now? Are we kind of like, okay, yes, Beckham's a big deal and he helped the league immensely by signing here, but come on now, like we're grown up a little bit. We don't need to be leaning on this guy quite as much.
No, we shouldn't be, but clearly you could tell from the instant reaction and tweets like you mentioned that MLS knew this was coming, and they had told everyone to, get those torpedoes in the tube and ready to go because Beckham's coming back, so it's time to push it again.
It leaves a bad taste in your mouth to see them do it, but I can understand it.
It feels like a crutch. It feels like MLS, instead of just saying, here's our improving product. Here's our entertaining sport. Here's soccer. Here's all these things. And you maybe get to see David Beckham too, which is pretty cool.
Right.
It's just here we go again. Beckham.
Yeah, we're coming off the highest average attendance in the league's history, if I have that right, and maybe since '96 if I have it wrong. And that was the inaugural year and the excitement after '94. And we're still saying, okay, we need a Beckham effect. We need a Beckham bump here. I don't get that. I mean, I know Montreal's going to be playing a couple of games in the Olympic Stadium, and in Olympic Stadium. And I'm assuming that's if Beckham comes to town, that's where that game's going to be. They're going to maximize the impact. Wow, that was sense. not a pun intended there. But you can't avoid it. It's terrible. But yeah, I think we should be past this. And look, I'm okay with it. I know some people are sick of Beckham. If you aren't, if you're a fan of a rival team, then it's probably going to annoy you just because of the Beckham effect and because he draws so much attention and because he's, the underwear and the cologne and, he's a celebrity athlete. He's not a soccer player.
Hey, I mean, who doesn't love seeing David Beckham in his underwear? I mean, we all love that, right?
The other big news.
I think the biggest thing, real quick, for me is the simple fact that it at least gives the impression that MLS's marketing is still at some kind of level where this is a crutch for them, and they it seems like they still haven't figured out the best way to sell this sport at a big level. I think some of the teams are figuring it out, but the league as a whole, it makes you feel like they haven't figured it out.
They're kind of damned if they do and damned if they don't. If they don't, they're missing a quote unquote opportunity to push it again. Here's excitement. It's David. He's still the biggest. He's still
sure. This is the only time the MLS sometimes get on the front pages of newspapers, websites, whatever. So you got to take advantage of the buzz that does come from it.
It's just annoying for those of us who've been around for a long time. The other big news today, and this happened before the Beckham thing and got completely washed out as far as I can tell, is that Philadelphia is seriously considering and may have already done so, selling Sebastian Letou to Bolton. And this came out of nowhere. Normally, I'm annoyed by all the rumor mongering that goes on before a guy's sold. How long have we been waiting for Tim Ream's transfer to go through? How long? Is it weeks,
at least
months?
3 to 4 years.
It's been forever. And
it has.
The Sebastian,
since what, December?
Yeah, Sebastian Letou thing pops up out of nowhere. He apparently tweeted that he was headed to England yesterday, and nobody put two and two together. And give credit to Ives Gillersep, who had the story and broke it on FoxSoccer.com or whatever website that is now, and let the bomb drop that Seba might be going to. I don't know. This first of all, is it a good fit for Sebastian Letou to go to Bolton? And second of all, what is Philly doing?
Well, I think Bolton can use a guy like Sebastian Letou, a guy who can create in the midfield, who's a good player. Bolton has had so many problems this season so far in the EPL. I think anything could be a shot in the arm for them, especially until Stu Holden gets back. And you can only say that so many times, but it's the truth. He's very important to them. Yeah. And so Seba gives them another attacking option, and I think a guy that could be effective in the EPL. At least you think he could be. He stands up to the physical play here in MLS. So.
I like him. I like Letou, and I think he's an excellent player in MLS. But and I know his history before he got to the States is a little bit better. But he was playing second division soccer in the United States, which is where would you put that? League 2? League 3? I mean, out of the football league. Would you put it in the conference level? I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm being harsh on USL back then, but that's only 4 years ago for Sebastian Letou, and he exploded in Philadelphia. It was a great thing to see. It was just, it's just that meteoric rise gives me pause as to whether or not he's going to be able to handle that jump, and that's probably not fair because I think. certain guys that are leaving MLS to go play in England are capable of that job, and they really don't have quite the track record that Sebastian Letou has. So maybe I need to adjust my perceptions of him as a player. Exciting in MLS, why not take it to England? And especially from Philadelphia's standpoint, and Union fans are distraught. This would be like, I don't know, Houston losing
like
Brian Ching going to Montreal.
Yeah, exactly.
They're distraught, but at the same time, if there is good value to be had out of a 27-year-old player, why not sell him?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're able to pull some money, and we know how complicated the financials of MLS are, and who knows what they get, but yeah, if they're getting a good offer from Bolton, why not go out and make the money from it? I mean, because honestly, in MLS, I think at times you may not like to hear it, but it is a bit of a feeder league at times, and there's nothing wrong with that per se.
No.
You've got to take advantage. If you have a chance to make some money off of a player, why not?
The only alternative to MLS not being a feeder league is it not feeding anybody, and that doesn't do any good, and that doesn't bring in revenue, bring in money. That doesn't spread the kind of the word that MLS can create or develop or has good players, period. I mean, Sebastian Letou didn't develop here, but he certainly made his name in MLS. So if he goes on to Bolton and scores a handful of goals, I mean, I don't expect him to run roughshod over the Premier League or anything, but if he gets on the field a couple of times, scores a couple of goals, that in the end is good for MLS on the whole. So from a Philadelphia Union standpoint, bad, except that they've got some options. I mean, maybe you can't replace his production right away. Don't forget, he started kind of slowly last year and came on at the end, but they've got a bunch of young guys that they can work into this mix, and if they're going to get I don't know, what is it? Again, you said it was complicated. It's like $650,000 that they can use directly to buy players from the sale. I don't know what the breakout of the rest of the money is and where it goes and allocation.
That's DP money potentially. So you can go out and potentially you can find the right guy, and who knows who Peter Nowak has in mind. He wants to bring Carlos Ruiz back. But
well, that's the trouble, right?
It's a decent chunk of change, and like you said, it's if he goes over there and makes a good name for himself, plays well, then people are saying another MLS player that has come overseas to the English Premier League and proven he belongs, and that's never a bad thing.
Yeah, and an MLS player who, moved up through the ranks, so to speak, and didn't directly come. I mean, it wasn't like the Union went to France and found Sebastian Letou and signed him from a League One team there or something like that. He had to work his way up in this country to even get where he is. So I'll
never forget when FC Dallas trialed him before he went to Seattle, and they trialed him as a fullback.
Yeah,
that was genius.
Another guy that's going to England, and he's in England right now, and I have to get your quick opinion. Got a couple minutes left. Edson Buttle's on trial at Everton per reports, and he's already had a look from West Ham, and maybe he's going to West Ham in the end. What does that mean? That does it mean that Buttle is better than we thought, or does it mean Everton is that desperate?
I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think Buttle's a solid player, but I'm not going to lie. Everton is desperate with a capital D at this point for anybody who can score a goal.
Right.
This team can't score a freaking goal to save their lives.
And why
at this
not?
Point, if you can get any guy on free, bring him in.
And why not get the guy who has hooked up with Landon Donovan in the past and managed to score 15 goals or whatever it was in MLS? With that partnership, I guess. I mean, you think that Landon probably put in a good word for him. I think they share an agent, and there's some ins over there with that.
You've got to think that this came along because Donovan was there. He may not be a guy that would have gotten on Moises' radar otherwise. And it's so good for Donovan for helping a guy out. And if he catches on, great. If he gets him another gig, even better. I mean, I got nothing against Edson Buttle, and I'd love to see him play. And if he can score goals and
you'll be excited.
Get him,
yeah.
Fine with me. I'll take the goals.
I just again, I'm kind of stunned by the sudden meteoric rise of not just Edson Buttle as a player, and who knows, he might not get a job in England, and that would take some sting out of this. But it just even the fact that he's there on trial, even the fact that David Moyes would say, okay, here may be a legitimate option. Of course, he's on the cheap because that's what Everton's dealing with right now.
That's what we do.
Yeah, that's what Everton's dealing with right now. Of course, that's part of it, but it's also just the idea that Edson Buttle, who again, scored a lot of goals in MLS, but I don't think anybody points at him and goes, okay, you know what? That's one of our better players. He could go play in a top flight league in Europe. He was playing in the second division in Germany. It's just mind-blowing to me. Just absolutely crazy. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Jeff Kassouf of The Equalizer about some WPS news. Jason and Ginge, Best Soccer Show. Don't go anywhere. Jason Davis, Zach Woosley back on the Best Soccer Show and ASN.TV. And to cover some of today's other breaking news, we brought in Jeff Kassouf, EqualizerSoccer.com, expert on the women's game, WPS. How are you, Jeff?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Not too bad. All right, so I hear Magic Jack is back in play somehow, some way. Explain to me what's going on with the lawsuit and the what happened basically.
Yeah. I guess the word is sort of. Magic Jack is back as sort of a rogue exhibition team. So not formally part of the league, but they're going to play 7-8 games. They'll get a couple at home, and Dan Borislav, the owner, gets to keep some of the players that he's heralded the most. Abby Wambach, Hope Solo, Christy Rampone, and Megan Rapinoe are the ones we know of. So, it kind of continues the ongoing saga that just seems to get, it's more of a circus every day.
So at this point, okay, so I'm trying to get my timeline right. WPS kicks Magic Jack out of the league because Borislav is just he's mental. He does things that they don't like too much. He's alienating sponsors, all of those things. They kick him out of the league. He files an injunction to keep that from happening, and this is the compromise because otherwise, was the league under threat because of that lawsuit?
Right. So I think the way to look at this in a positive light is a lot of the word coming through over the past week or so was that if things went wrong in court, that it could have been the end of the entire league because, they said that they were not going to play with him, if he was reinstated. So that would have been the end of Magic Jack and everyone else. So I think that there was a realization there that there was a bigger picture, and they kind of came to this compromise.
Is the lawsuit still active, or is this a compromise that's ended it, and we know for sure there will be a WPS season in 2012?
Yeah, there will be a season, and as of now, the lawsuit is off. But we've kind of heard that.
we don't know with this guy. We just don't know with this guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of sanctioning, because that's the other thing that kind of preceded all of this, and part of the fallout of kicking Magic Jack out of the league was a loss of a team, and U.S. Soccer wanted to see a certain number of teams in the league. What kind of instructions is WPS operating in 2012, and what do they need to do moving forward to make sure that the league stays in existence?
Yeah, so they're only at 5 now, Magic Jack being the sort of sixth, whatever you want to call it. But there are 5 official teams. They need 6 by the beginning of 2013 season. And I know that, they hope to have something to announce on that by, sometime around the summer. But, who knows? We'll see what happens there. But the stipulation was 6 by 2013, and then they're going to need 8 the following year there. So slow progression for them, which is what they need.
And the chances that they're able to get to these numbers are relatively good?
Yeah, I hesitate because we've been talking about expansion for a couple of years, and all we've seen is contraction, really, even with the additional teams. But I'd say if they can't get one more team by next year, then there's bigger problems than even Dan Borislav. I think it'd be a real indication of the support of women's soccer.
One last question before we let you go. I just wondering, you're talking about Borislav and Magic Jack getting to hold on to certain U.S. national team players, women who are marquee names. How is that going? I know they're going to go play in each city, but how is that going to impact the league and the quality overall?
Well, I think the thing with that was some of these players, Abby Wambach sort of talked about it openly. Some of them weren't even looking at playing in the league at all this year. At least that's what they were discussing publicly, because the Olympic year, a lot of overlap with WPS, a lot of conflict. So in a way, I mean, it gives them an opportunity to still come into WPS markets and fans can see them, and it gives them a shorter schedule with only 7 or 8 exhibition games. But it is going to be tough on some fans, I think, to not be able to see some of the top stars actually formally in the league. But especially with budget cuts, I think that some of those players were even off everyone's radar in terms of being able to sign them.
Right. All right, Jeff Kassouf, equalizersoccer.com is his website, and look forward to a podcast from Jeff in the near future on NASN.TV. Thanks for the time and the update, Jeff. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
All right, have a good night.
You too.
Thanks, Jeff.
So yeah, there's that. I mean, that's a good thing that the league is going to continue and that the lawsuit is at least pushed to the side. And if Borislav wants to take another shot, he's going to file another lawsuit. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But this is weird.
It's been such a confusing time
so
for women's
weird.
professional soccer that at this point, I think just being able to be on the field and know that there's at least going to be a season, no matter what shape it might take, is good. They just need to play.
Yeah.
And it gives them more time to do what Jeff talked about, to get that important sixth team and to look beyond that for the teams they need. And I'm glad it's back. I enjoyed watching. I got into watching more of it last season. It's not perfect. It's not the best thing you've ever seen in your life, but you know what? It's soccer. It's fun. It's entertaining. And I'm glad it's not going away because I think that it needs to be promoted in this country.
There's certainly value there. And look, this is something I preach with MLS all of the time. It's almost about just being there, almost as much about just being there as it is about getting better or signing bigger players. The longer you exist in one place and the more roots you can put down through just constantly being a part of the soccer community in whatever town we're talking about, the better off the game is in this country. The expansion teams are great in MLS, but it's really about teams, and this is why it would be such a tragedy if DC United got moved and that kind of thing. It's because the roots are getting pulled out of the ground if you do it, even if it's to Baltimore. So good to see WPS come to some kind of compromise. I hope we don't have any crazy stuff from that guy. He's hilarious, he's entertaining, but it's just so much of an impact on women's soccer in the U.S. the way that he's been the last year. I guess just 1 year of the guy, and it's like I'm done. I'm out.
If it wasn't so destructive, it would be fine.
It would be fine.
It's any entertainment value there is to it is offset by the destructive element of it.
Right. On the U.S. men's national team front, a couple of things I wanted to talk about today. We had some people on Twitter kind of tip me to this interview that Jurgen Klinsmann did at the National Soccer Coaches Convention with Alan Hopkins. It's an hour long, first of all, and I didn't put in all of the time. I just didn't have it today. I plan to go back and watch the whole thing, but from what I could tell, it's an excellent interview. A lot of it is about training methods and getting kids into the right environments and those kinds of things. It's very coachy stuff. But at one point, Klinsmann talks about, he brings this up himself, talks about the dual international kids, and we've talked about it on this show, Ginge, the issue, I guess, if you want to make it one, of Klinsmann calling in all of these dual German internationals, U.S. German internationals, and is that good for American soccer? And would you rather? I mean, this is the Preston Zimmerman question, right? This is kind of that. It's almost xenophobic, but it's in that range, and it gets a little uncomfortable. This is Klinsmann talking about that to Alan Hopkins. I thought we should play that.
There's obviously some people that are questioning, said, why is Jürgen calling in a couple of kids, dual citizenship kids in Germany, coming through, military families, don't we have good enough kids in the U.S.? And I said, we have good kids in the U.S., but if you have the comparison and you see some players like Alfredo Gonzalez or Fabian Johnson or Danny Williams coming through 10, 12 years of academy programs in a European country,
11 months a year,
then you will see the difference in their decision making, in their awareness, in their vision on the field, in many elements, and it's not a negative on a kid here. It's just a fact.
I'm sorry, it's a negative on a kid. You're basically saying that American kids, no matter how good they are, how good they show, and that's my issue here. It's about how you show. It's about what you do on the field when you get the opportunity. So if Klinsmann's going to choose these German American kids, I have nothing against. If they want to play for the U.S., I'm fine. Go ahead and slap the jersey on them. Let them play. My issue is that if you're not giving a kid who grew up in this country a chance just because you don't think he got enough time, and that might mean he's not making the right, you don't even give him a chance to show it, then that is a negative. You are a strike against kids that come up here, right?
I think so. And whether he intends it or not, I think the message becomes a little bit like that it is, I really don't care how good you might be or what you've done. I'm still going to give the advantage to these guys over here because they've gone through a system that I'm familiar with that I think is better.
Right, because
I'm hoping maybe that what this current round of camps here in January shows Clemson a little bit is that thinking, while there's nothing necessarily completely wrong with it, it isn't the only way to go about it. It is the only right way, because clearly Jeff Cameron's been having a great camp, and there's probably some other guys that have had it. I haven't followed it real closely. But hopefully those guys are maybe reminding Klinsman that you just can't assume that just because this academy system works, this is an effective way, that's the only way that you're going to find good players.
Well,
but at the same time, it's his job to win.
Sure.
And whatever he needs to do to win, he's going to do.
Sure. And that's mostly my why I don't have a problem with calling these kids in. We have that question, and it's a subjective thing. It's impossible to know. If you ask these kids, the German American kids, do you want to play for the U.S.? Most of them are going to say yes, because they're being given the opportunity. They're not going to say, oh yeah, no, I'm really not into this, but hey, what else do I have going on? Or I'm not going to get a shot with the German team. They're not going to say that. But as long as they're at least putting forth the effort, I have no problem with it. I don't know. I just wonder if he's painting with a broad brush, if he's excluding kids based on the education that they got, basically, without really properly assessing their abilities. I mean, I understand you don't want to have to train or develop a kid once he's 22, 23 years old. You want him to already be there, and maybe those German-American kids who came up in Germany are already prepared to play better than the American kids, but there are going to be exceptions. If you're not looking for the exceptions, then you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're doing the game in this country, and because if we have kids that are looking at these teams and going, well, if I'm not in Germany, I'm playing in the U.S., do I have a shot at this? I mean, is that not a real concern?
Yeah, I think it is, and especially if you're demoralizing kids who are trying to come up and want to be a part of the national team program, and then they see that even if they work hard, and even if they play well and do all the things that you think you should be able to do to have a chance, you're not going to get that chance because the way you came up isn't viewed by the guy in charge as the right way or the best way, then that's a problem. But at the same time, if he is in a way indicting the system that we have of development in the United States and saying that these kids who are coming up here in the United States, doesn't mean they're not good players, but they don't have the types of fundamentals he wants. They don't have the type of skill sets he wants. Whatever it might be, then that could be a legitimate problem that needs to be addressed.
Okay.
Because he could be looking for Klinsman's viewpoint might be of, when I bring these guys into the national team camp, I want them to be able to do X, Y, and Z.
Sure.
And if they can't do these things, then I don't want to have to. This is not the place to teach them. It's not my job to have to teach them that. They need to know this.
Okay.
And if he doesn't think they're getting it from coming to the American system, then that's clearly going to be a problem if he's a long-term guy here, because that's going to exclude a lot of people just because of that, and I think that is a genuine problem.
Okay, well, I don't long term. I mean, I don't see Jurgen Klinsmann going more than 4 or 8 years. Certainly.
Well, that's true. That's the thing.
Or at
with
least
the national team coaches.
2 cycles at the most. So that's, you can talk about long term. It's going to change. Somebody new is going to come up with possibly a different philosophy. So it might all go out the window.
But if he's here for 8 years and this is his philosophy, how much does that set back development of players in this country?
Well, I mean,
and we potentially miss out on guys because he doesn't want to look to it. If that's the case,
it just brings up the question of how much do things have to change here to fit his philosophies, and whether or not that's even possible in certain circumstances. Because you can lament the state of development here, but if there's no legitimate way to go about doing it, and it's not, it's not practical, then it doesn't really matter. So you have to find ways to tweak the system and reward the kids who come up through a better, a changed, a developed a system with better fundamentals, or whatever you want to say. I mean, however you want to talk about tweaking this system. And we are only in the infancy of the professional academy system in this country anyway, so it's impossible to know.
And he's helping to retool the U.S. soccer youth system. So you have to think that part of that is telling the people that are going in charge of the youth teams. He's saying, these are the things I want you to focus on. These are the things I want to see from these kids. So you'd have to think that if that's the case, that the kids getting the chances in the U16, the U18, the U20 teams are getting the kind of things that he wants to see. Therefore, moving forward, it could improve things. At least I hope that's what's happening. That would be the logical way to do it, I think.
Or we just end up with a bunch of kids on those teams who are already gone. They're already in England or Germany or wherever else. I mean, we're talking about Mark Pelosi and guys like that who are signed up. You know, he's 18 years old, I guess, but where they're signed up to into academies abroad where, you know, they quote-unquote do it better 11 months out of the year and all of that. The other development out of national team camp, this was obviously at the convention in Kansas City, but the senior team and the U23s have been facing off. They played once a couple days ago. It was 4-0. We talked about it on the Sunday show. They played again. It came out 1-1, so a better showing by the U23s. I don't know. I don't think it means a whole lot. I mean, it is what it is. Freddie Adu had a quote after the first game saying, "Oh, that didn't reflect how the game went." Well, maybe this is a fair reflection. I said after the first one, Zach, I said, "Oh my God, the U23s are terrible. 4-0. That's terrible." But again, it doesn't mean a whole lot. Do we take anything out of a 1-1 draw here?
Well, I think it's important that you saw some improvement, that you felt like the team played better, because this U23 team is having to come together very quickly and get ready for Olympic qualifiers.
Right.
There's not a lot
true.
of time for them. So you want to see that improvement, because we want to see these under 23 team in the Olympics. It's very important. That's why Caleb Porter was brought in, to get this team into the Olympics. So being able to stand up and play well against a version of our senior team, which has several guys that we've seen feature regularly, is important. And I think you can take that away. Now, I think you're going to be able to take a heck of a lot more away from the games they play now, this point forward.
Well,
if we see the team continue to get better, then that's good. If it goes off the rails real quick, then that's a serious problem. Then that team's going to struggle.
The U23s are headed to Costa Rica to have a couple of friendlies, one with the reserve side down there, and then I can't remember what the other one is right now. It's not that important. A couple of things that I did notice. Number one, Teal Bunbury was playing with the U23s, which I don't know is that's super surprising, but it is interesting. It gives you an indication that maybe, you know, Teal's lined up for the Olympic team. Why wouldn't he be? But he has been in the senior camp. I mean, he was named to the senior camp, so it's just one of those things. Like there's a little bit of carryover, a little crossover here, because you can't have CJ Sapong in the U23 camp because he's not qualified. Let's see what else. Graham Zusi had a great showing in both of these games, scored in both of these games. That's one of Jared's boys. How do you feel about Graham Zusi in the national team?
Look, my view of the national team is it's a combination of guys that prove they can play at the international level for me and hot hands. And if Zusi is playing well and having a good going in MLS, then bring him in.
Okay.
I'm not picky. I just want guys that can come in and do the job.
Yeah. No,
so,
I am with you.
I'm not that type of person that feels like, let's just stick with what we know has been in the past. Take some risks sometimes. Why not bring in Graham Zusi and see what he does? I mean, he could explode and have a great game. He could be terrible, but at least you tried. And
yeah.
But then again, I'm not coach. I don't know what his plan is. And in the end, what do we care? We just want to see this team win and qualify for the World Cup and qualify for the Olympics and different things. So that's really all that matters in the end for us. We can complain all we want, but if they're winning, then we're happy.
We had a couple of tweets about this match from it looks like Henry Caesar 1979. I'm not going to spell it. Solid performance from U23s. How far we expect them to go? How far should we go at this stage in our existence? The Olympics are kind of a crapshoot, right? We don't know what the overage player is going to be. We don't quite know what Porter's going to do with his lineup, and we could take guesses. They're not going to be right. They still have to qualify. I don't know. I mean, what are we talking about here?
Well, I think the U23s, it's just a crapshoot in the Olympics because it's in the middle of the season for MLS. It's out of season for European leagues, which isn't really a big deal for them. They're used to that. It's all about the teams that come together the fastest and get hot at the right moment. And maybe this U23 team, having been together now in January, they'll be together through the lead up to qualifiers. Maybe they'll be on a bit of a roll, and maybe they can be successful. But you know what? I think for the Olympics, for me, sure, you want to win. You want at least medal. That's great. But at the same time, you know what, getting there for me, being on that stage is just as important. If we're
Yeah.
there when they play well, I'm happy.
At one point in this scrimmage, or whatever you want to call it, Klinsman played Jermaine Jones and Ricardo Clark together. What does that sound like to you? That's like flashback stuff. That's Nam right there.
That's horrible. That's almost as bad as having Pepe in there.
What are we doing? Why are we doing this?
I think that's like, that's a test. That's like his destructor midfield.
Oh,
like
okay.
If there's a game
Right.
where he needs to just like destroy someone, then that's like he puts. I think it's like the hockey enforcer, the guy
Sure.
that comes in to fight. That's his version of that line.
Right. All right, let's take a break. It's the best soccer show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Jason and Zach back on the best soccer show, North American Soccer Network. And Zach has just spotted some, what we're going to call breaking news. Not positive how established and, not established, but how confirmed this is. But apparently, Tim Ream's wife tweeted that his work permit was denied. So no move to Bolton for Tim Ream. If this is
Potentially.
true, it's a little troubling. I mean, not troubling. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, he's still young. He's not that young. Let me say this again. He's still young in development. He hasn't played that many games as a professional. I wanted to see him go to England just because I'm always for, Americans going there and potentially doing well. But he probably needs the development. And I don't know. What do you do now?
I agree he needs the development, and that's why I want him out of New York, so he can develop.
Yeah.
Like Red Bull developing. I mean, you saw
Yeah.
last season. I mean, talk about a guy that went completely the wrong direction. We can
Right.
blame Rafa Marquez all we want, but that was not the way we wanted to see Tim Ream play. But I guess they can appeal this. I don't know. This is very base information, but it's fair to ask. What does Robbie Rogers have, short of maybe a longer timeline of professional football playing, that Tim Ream doesn't?
Well, maybe that's it. Maybe that's the whole thing. I don't know. I mean, it's it's like a parole board. You don't know what they're going to decide is the important factor in all of this.
Should have got Morgan Freeman to give a speech from the Shawshank.
Should have had Tim Ream go in and sit down and say, what is it? Basically deny that anything is whatever. I can't remember the exact dialogue from the movie, but the Robbie Rogers getting his. I don't know. It's Leeds. It's second division. That's fine. It's great for Robbie, I guess. I'm not that high on him at this point. And Ream to Bolton was a bigger move. It's going to be interesting to see how he responds. I mean, do you think Ream is susceptible to the George John, Sasha Kljestan syndrome that we've seen over the last couple of years?
It's certainly possible. You don't know how anyone's going to react to this. I would like to think that as a professional, his agent has prepared him for the possibility that this was not going to work, and therefore to be prepared that you could still be in New York next season. But you never know. You don't know how these guys are going to react to it. I mean, if you react that like it's defeated and you just carry that weight with you, then he could have an even worse season than he did last year.
Yeah.
And then where's that going to put him? I mean, and hopefully what it does, if it doesn't ultimately work out, is it lights a fire under him and he says, I've got to work harder, I've got to be better, and the next time around they're not going to be able to say no to me.
Right.
And that's what you ultimately want. If he wants to move to Europe, that's what he's got to do.
If he plays well enough, he gets a national team call over to him, he's featuring in qualifiers and that kind of thing, then yeah, it's possible that could happen next year. We wanted to hit emails here, and in fact, the first one relates directly to work permits. Hey Jason, hey Zach, long-time listener, first-time emailer. Wanted to know, after seeing Robbie Rogers move to Leeds finalized, was wondering which is easier to get, a work permit in England or a marijuana prescription in SoCal. It seems either one is easily accessible if you know the right person to give your application to. The second, this is from Jared Dubois, by the way. What the heck is going on here? Second, please rate these TV daughters in order of hotness. The blonde daughter from Step by Step, Kelly Bundy from Married with Children, and Topanga from Boy Meets World. Actually, hold on a second, Zach. Are you going to answer this question? Do you have an answer ready for this question?
No, not yet.
Okay, you're going to think about it. Okay, because I was going to peg you. I was going to guess that you're a Topanga guy, number one. Am I wrong about this?
Is it here's my problem is I have to freaking Google who the hell this is.
Oh, you don't know who
So, like,
Topinka is?
I didn't
Okay.
even watch Step by Step.
No. I might have watched.
I got a picture of Danielle Fishel, who was Topinka. Yeah, she's not too bad. I guess.
Okay.
I guess if I put it on the spot, I'm definitely going to rule out Kelly Bundy. No, thank you. She's
No,
my
I'm not a
type.
big fan
so
either.
I'll take Topinka, and in my ultimate pop culture fail. But I figure I can make it up by showing this. And who has one of these in their collection? I mean, that is pop culture.
What is
gold
that
right there?
What is it?
It's Chris Gaines CD.
Oh,
It's a
my
fake
God.
Garth Brooks CD.
Dude,
that is talent.
Why
right
do you?
there.
First of all, why do you have that? And second of all, why
I
is
have no idea why I have that.
why is it within reach of your computer right now?
Intentionally, it's a prop. I was prepared for this.
Step away. Oh, yeah,
It's
okay.
the same reason my Alexi Lawless keychain is ready.
I'm
You
gonna
never know when you might need this.
I'm going to believe that your Chris Gaines CD, yes, that you prepare. Come on now. First of all, why would you out yourself like that? Chris Gaines.
Because I got to give you something for the show. I mean, I got to something people talk about. I mean,
That's
the
rather
idea
hilarious.
of Ginge back is only so exciting for so long. He's got to do
That's-
something stupid to embarrass himself.
That's rather hilarious. Second email. We asked for we had the Landon Donovan is big in Africa story email from a listener last show, and we asked for some
Wait, I'm
stories.
going to talk about marijuana in SoCal. That's like my big topic.
Well, I mean, come on now. From what I hear, he's right. You know where
This is a family show. I'm sorry.
Is that what we are? I wasn't made aware of that fact. We asked for some soccer stories. We got one from Brian Hoovler, who told us a story about going down to Honduras. It's a little long, and I'm going to have to pass on it just right now, Brian. I appreciate the email. Basically, he goes to Honduras and has an experience, gets Hondurans thanking him for the United States helping them get into the World Cup, which is just still an amazing thing. That's still the, one of those moments as a national team fan that has nothing to do with our team necessarily, but Johnny Bornstein scores the goal against Costa Rica, puts Honduras through, and that's in the folklore now, as with everything else that went on that night, because that was just a crazy night at RFK for the United States men's national team.
That was a fun night.
Well, yeah, the lead up
Even
was
if
not,
it was Jonathan Bornstein, that was still a fun night.
The lead up wasn't fun because the lead up was the couple days prior were the Charlie Davies accident, so that wasn't fun. But the payoff was an excellent memory to have. This one is from Hadley Wright. Robbie Finley's miss, horrendous. U.S. men's national team ! I'm not sure what that's about. Interesting thought from a rival podcast. What did the loans of Henry, Keane, Donovan say about the level of MLS in terms of strenuousness? We hear all the time about players coming back from the World Cup, for example, completely gassed and able to perform as they had before. But these players are coming off an MLS season and playoffs, and in Donovan's case, playing 90 minutes every match with no mention of fatigue. Does this show that MLS isn't at the top level, or there is something else at play? And I think this was Paul Doyle on Football Weekly who mentioned it, and I actually engaged with him on Twitter about this topic. Because I take exception to the idea that MLS is not strenuous. I think it's a different kind of strenuous, maybe. Is the EPL a harder league from a physical standpoint? Game in, game out, probably. But there's
it's a little more physical game, and you also have that middle stretch of the EPL season, which is just horrendous during the Boxing Day, the Christmas season, where you're playing games just back to back to back on top of each other. And look, it's a different type of game in a way. It's a different type of season. There's travel issues involved.
Right.
And look, Donovan did miss a stretch of the MLS season with injuries and other things. So it's not like he played every single minute of every single match this year. So he did have some downtime.
Right.
I mean, Henry picked up an injury, a minor one.
Well,
it's hard to compare them, I guess.
Yeah, I think most of these guys had a little bit of time off. They had the month off that Jurgen Klinsmann keeps talking about. You take a month off and then you're back into it. But in a lot of these cases, except for maybe Donovan, they're not expected to come in and be 90-minute guys. You're not going to put Robbie Keane. Aston Villa's not going to start Robbie Keane and play him for 90+. They're just not going to do that. Thierry Henry is more than likely going to be a weapon off the bench for Arsenal. I know he started once, I think, so far, but I don't think he's going 90 minutes. I mean, they're going to go 65, 70 minutes most of the time.
No, those guys are bonus depth, and that's how we saw Henry using their FA Cup match. We saw them using their game on the weekend. It's how Keane was used in the Aston Villa's game. These guys aren't there to be starters. They're there to give their coaches flexibility late in games if they need an offensive option. And that's what they'll do.
It doesn't take that much, no matter how strenuous a league is. It doesn't take that much to rest up a little bit and be 20-minute fit. You might not be 90-minute fit, but you're 20-minute fit, pretty quickly as a professional soccer player. Last email from Matthew Brotman regarding Jason's comments about Jermaine Jones on the last show, in which I said that it sent a bad message that Jurgen Klinsmann called him into this camp after the suspension in Germany. A few months ago, Kyle Beckerman was called up to the national team while serving a multiple-game suspension for violent conduct. I don't recall Jason complaining about that. What's the difference with Jones? That's a good point. I mean, I really can't argue with that. That at the time, Beckerman had was it a headbutt incident that he had a suspension for?
Yeah,
that's not good either. I mean, I guess there's a point to be made about there not being much difference between the two actions. But I will say that Jermaine Jones' reputation is much worse than Kyle Beckerman's overall. Kyle Beckerman has had a moment or two in his MLS career, but I don't think anybody's going to call him a hothead, generally speaking. So I don't know. Maybe that's a factor. Maybe it's not. Maybe you don't buy that. But I just think that Jermaine Jones at this point, I don't know. I still think it's kind of odd.
Klinsmann views Jones as a guy he wants to have involved in his team. So therefore, if he is available for this camp, you bring him in. It doesn't matter. I don't think Klinsmann cares. I mean, Klinsmann's job isn't to worry about what's going on at that level, so to speak, at the club. I'm sure he's not thrilled that Jermaine Jones got himself suspended. But you know what? This is an opportunity to bring him in to an extended camp with a lot of players for him to spend time with and learn and bond. So you know what? That's his job. It's to prepare this team. So I think he has to separate it. I don't think he has the luxury of punishing a guy further.
Yeah, no, I think it's unsettling for me, but I'm not going to blame Klinsmann for calling him in if he's available. I just wonder if it's the kind of if Klinsmann's at all concerned about the reputation of the U.S. men's national team, and we've had. We've had players who have had incidents in the past. Ricardo Clark is still in this mix, and we all know his history. So it's just, I don't know. It's just from it's not even a moral thing. It's just kind of odd when you have a player with a very bad reputation, then you have to root for him. You have to say, all right, Jermaine Jones is my guy.
There's plenty of players who have bad reputations and have done bad things and still get national team call-ups and still get signed by clubs.
Absolutely,
and that's just that's sport. It happens in a variety of sports here. Guys like I'm trying to think. Latrell Sprewell kept getting jobs. People keep signing Pac-Man Jones. These things. That's sports. That's the way it is. In the end, it's business, and sometimes there's going to be people that are willing to say, "I don't care what he did. I can work with him," and other people that might not like it. In this case, it doesn't bother Klinsmann. He's going to bring him in, and so be it.
Yep. Another thanks for the emails, guys. Send them in show@bestsoccershow.com. We'll try to get to them whenever you get them to us. The other thing that happened, I think, was this today? The DeMarcus Beasley on Twitter thing, was that today?
It was today.
Okay.
Yes.
So first DeMarcus Beasley is tweeting updates and pictures of the federales coming in and or the tax authorities or whoever it was in Mexico coming in and taking Puebla's property because they were behind on their tax bill. Now he's tweeting about getting shaken down in Mexico. He said he's gotten stopped by the same cop twice. Been asked
for like $300 the first time,
I think
and he
pesos.
got it for $600 today.
Well, I think it's pesos,
like,
but I don't.
Well, he said 3,000 pesos, which he equated to 300 American. I don't know. Maybe that's $30. I don't know. I'm sorry.
I didn't know that he was making the distinction because I only saw a couple of the tweets. So he did say that it was $300.
If I remember right, he said it was $300 the first time, and I think $6 or something like that. Or look, the point is, I feel bad for him getting shook down, but. And this is going to sound horrible, but it's Mexico.
Right.
That kind of stuff happens in Mexico.
Well, it
ain't right.
It's not exactly.
It does.
It's not exactly an advertisement for American players, who I'm guessing a lot of young American players are following DeMarcus Beasley on Twitter. It's not exactly an ad for them to go down and play in Mexico. For guys to go outside their comfort zones. For Mexican American players, maybe it's easier, but. Guys that are playing here.
Hercules Gomez has a problem because he's a Mexican American player. He blends into the society.
Is that what it is?
Marcus Beasley.
Are you making this?
I think everybody knows he's an American.
Well, okay.
I'm not going to anything else. I'm just saying people know he's an American.
So you're not making this a race thing. You're making this.
This is racing. This is not race. This
about
is
American. All right.
He's a known soccer player and he's an American. So therefore, I think the assumption is, oh, good. He's probably got money. I can shake him down for money. That's what's happening to him.
Well,
I feel bad for him. He's got to figure out a way. Now, him tweeting about it is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah,
I think that's
the best part is that he's so upbeat and he's taking it all in stride. Like, oh my gosh, I guess
took me down for $300. I'd be mad as hell.
Well, you're not making. You're not making.
$300. I ain't got $300. I got like $10 in my bank account.
You're not making DMV money
anyway. I'd be furious.
Yeah,
taking
it's
my money.
just crazy that this is happening and that he's tweeting about it so like nonchalantly. Just, hey guys, guess what happened to me today? It's like he's telling, an anecdote about seeing a guy, I don't know, pissing on the corner or something. Hey, I got shaken down today. $300. Today was 300. Yesterday was 600. I mean, at least I'm getting a discount or something. It's unbelievable. So follow DeMarcus Beasley on Twitter. Why wouldn't you at this point? He's got unbelievable
Let's see
stuff.
what happens next?
What could be next? What could be?
I think you should ask the guy, about badges. See what he...
Maybe he should like get a camera phone or a digital camcorder or something and just keep it running. And then
put this guy's face out on Twitter.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he's taking his life into his own hands or something. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying. All right, let's take our last break of the evening. And when we come back, we'll close out this episode of the Best Soccer Show, North American Soccer Network at ASN.TV. Jason and Zach back on the Best Soccer Show. Have to thank Zach for stepping in for Jared this evening. Jared, family stuff going on. We wish him the best, by the way.
Definitely.
And thanks for stopping by, buddy. It's good talking to you tonight. It's been a while.
It was a pleasure. Glad to be here. It was a lot of fun, and I'm sure everyone was thrilled with my creepy dark room and everything else.
You do look like you're in a bunker right now. It's kind of
yeah.
crazy.
Well,
you're in like an Everton bunker. Like the world has ended. You think the world has ended. You got your Everton flag and maybe I don't know. It's crazy. We should mention that you've got a semi-daily podcast. The Ginge has lost his mind. Available, very short, right? Little quick hits, little raging.
Yeah, little short 5-10 minute podcast.
All right, it's
available at gingetalkstofooty.com. Please check it out. It's also on iTunes.
There you go. Also, should mention to you guys you should go check out the Mexican Soccer Show on North American Soccer Network on NASN.TV. They've got an interview with Edgar Castillo on their most recent show, which I've been meaning to listen to. I've heard it's fascinating stuff. He's a very confident kid, apparently, which he's going to feel confident he'll get back in the national team picture. That's got to fill some people with a little bit of dread, maybe.
Well, he's battling to be the next Jonathan Bornstein, essentially.
Sure.
So, not sure that's like a lot of people are happy about him. But
that's a cherry gig. Everybody should want to be the next Jonathan Bornstein. By the way, where is
in Honduras?
Where is Jonathan Bornstein? Is he rotting on the bench in Mexico right now?
Getting shook down by Federales.
I don't know. You think he can pass?
He probably has a better chance than DeMarcus Beasley.
Yeah, it probably does.
We're treading on thin ice here. We need to get away from this. I'm going to get myself in trouble.
Here's some big news. The Fox is going to put a live English Premier League game, on the Fox network, on their flagship. This is it's a pretty big deal. I mean, I can grouse about it being English soccer, but it's still soccer. It's still a big deal. My only problem with this, Zach, I think it's like 11 o'clock kickoff in the morning or something. We'll have to see how it does ratings wise. My problem with this, first of all, it's the debut of Rob Stone as the studio anchor, which I think is excellent. Happy for Rob Stone moving up in the world in that regard. Eric Winaldo's going to be in the mix, so there's going to be some interesting stuff coming out of his mouth. They've got Piers Morgan. Why are you involving Piers Morgan in this situation?
I don't
Is
know.
there one redeeming thing about Piers Morgan?
That he left America's Got Talent so Howard Stern could take over as a judge, and it might be worth watching now.
I didn't even know that show was still on. I did not even know.
I didn't either, but now that Howard's on it, I will be paying attention for some reason.
Craziness. I'm
a sucker.
I just can't. Can't stand. First, I can't stand the guy. It's an Arsenal-Manchester United match, and you're bringing him in, and he's a massive Arsenal fan. Aren't you just going to annoy all of the United people that would normally watch the pre-match show?
Isn't that the point? I mean, look, you're going to bring him in, and you know what?
Oh, he's that guy.
We don't. For all the people that don't like him, people
still
are still going to watch because they want to see what he has to say.
Don't you hate when people are successful for that reason though? They're so hated that they're popular. Doesn't that just annoy you? And he gets away with it.
I think they just want to get to the point where the Americans dislike him as much as the English. I think
I don't
trying
know.
to balance him out.
I think we're on our way there. I certainly exhibit all of the characteristics of someone
why
who
is
hates.
Fox promoting a guy who works for CNN? Isn't that
That's
a
a
big
good
competitor
question.
for Fox News?
That's a very good question. I don't know why they're shoehorning him in. Let's finish on this odd note. There was a shooting at the U.S. Women's National Team hotel in Vancouver today. Someone died. Luckily, none of the players were nearby or witnessed the shooting even. That was immediately put out there by U.S. Soccer. Nobody saw it. Nobody saw anything. None of our people saw anything. It's not a big deal from our perspective. That's got to be scary. What the hell?
Oh, I can only imagine. I've never been even anywhere near a shooting.
Here's-
So, I mean, apparently they were in the lobby and it happened like next door in a restaurant or coffee shop.
Crazy.
And Hope Solo said that she was about to head over that direction to Starbucks. So,
I'm glad she didn't.
yeah, sure, that's got to be a little bit scary. And
Who
the
knew-
thing to me that was weird is it just felt like there wasn't a lot of talk about this. It
Really?
kind of went under the radar with
Well,
everything going
there was
on.
so much happening today. I tweeted at one point, I need some things to
Yeah,
happen.
but
I
if
got
the
a show.
men's national team is getting in that situation, I think everybody's going crazy and
That's
talking
probably
about it.
true. That's probably true. But again, none of the women's national team players involved. My only thing was I didn't know Canadians had guns. That was my one thing. But lead balloon right there. All right, everybody. Go to NASN.TV for the show.
Throwing Bolsons in at people.
iTunes, we need feedback and ratings as always. You guys have done an excellent job on that. We want to thank you very, very much. But the more, the merrier. What am I missing? I'm missing a lot of things. We are on Twitter, Best Soccer Show. I mentioned the email address earlier. I'm running out of stuff. Again, thanks to the Gins for stepping in. Let me see if there's any other items that I'm missing that need to be. I'm waiting on my producer, basically. Can you fill me up? And then you stop writing. See, this doesn't help me. Yes, we're on Roku. Thanks a lot. All right, everybody. That's it. We're done. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye, everybody. The song from the Karate Kid.
I don't think that's what you meant.